How we ruin our lives.
He's always so positive.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Yes.
This
This is today's subject matter. How we are ruining our lives. But the good news is when you talk about how you're ruining your life, you can stop ruining your life and you can start making your life good. So it's actually very nice to talk. Are you guys figuring this all out?
Yeah, but you can. I don't know how long this will take, so you can.
I'll try to continue.
Go ahead, proceed.
A little distracting. Okay, so we ruin our lives often, actually, and we don't realize we're sabotaging our lives. You ever get like a bad result with your life? It's not working out how you'd like? Yes, am I the only one? Yes, this is due to our own reactions in this world. And we've sabotaged ourselves many times over. I don't know, I was thinking just when I was in India, one thing I did stupid, I very cheaply and quickly and abruptly ordered tickets. And I thought it was a good deal, and it turns out it was the worst deal ever. And so, you know, these things like this happen. But for whatever reason, I can't connect for what I'm looking for. Instruction. Verse 2. Okay. All right. So this is how we are ruining our lives. Are you ready? We're going to do Nectar of Instruction. Does everyone have this book? Maybe David, we can hand out a few of these books. Hare Krishna. Who's joined? Tej. Tej, we're talking about how we ruin our lives. It's very nice. Welcome. Perfect subject matter for today. Oh, this is very good. So all we have to do now is just get the...
Read operator.
Yes. Tanmay, operate. No, yeah, Nectar of Instruction, verse 2. Okay. So actually, I don't know if you remember, we did this like months ago before we went to India. But then many things happened. And so we're going to revisit this today. Okay.
Nice.
Okay, very good. So, repeat after me. Atyahara prayasascha. Tanmay, why don't you zoom it in?
Zoom?
Please
Zoom
do
it
the
in.
Sanskrit.
Turn your brightness up a little bit.
Prajalpo niyamagraha. Jana sangashalolyan cha. Oh, look how good that is. Shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. Very good. All right. Atyahara. Atyahara means overeating or too much collecting, too much consuming. It's eating, but also we have the necessity, I need this, I need that, I need this. So this is all atyahara. Prayasa, over endeavoring. Cha, and. Prajalpa, idle talking or nonsense talking. Yes, it doesn't say nonsense talking here, but we know this is prajalpa is nonsense talks. Niyama, rules and regulations. Agraha, too much attachment to. Or agraha, too much neglect of. So it could be both. Jana sangha, association with worldly minded persons. Lolyam, ardent longing or greed. Cha, and. Should be. By these 6. Bhakti,
Bhakti.
devotional service. Vinashyati is destroyed. Okay, so now you're getting the hint how we're ruining our lives. By destroying our bhakti, actually. Bhakti is what? It says there devotional service, right? But yes, it's the yoga of love. So we all want to know what love is. We're all looking for love. But this is saying these things destroy love. Who's trying to destroy love in their life? Tanmay is trying to destroy love. Not good, Tanmay. What? Yes, wrong answer. So,
Is it better without that light?
Yes. So I was thinking of inverting the colors. I have to check. Like it becomes black and white. So.
can we get an IT guy up here? I'm just teasing. It's fine. You guys can read it, right? So one's devotional service is spoiled. Why don't you repeat?
One's devotional service is spoiled.
When he becomes too entangled
When he becomes too entangled.
in the following 6 activities:
Following 6 activities.
eating more than necessary,
Eating more than necessary.
or collecting more funds than required,
Collecting more funds than required.
over-endeavoring
Or endeavoring.
for mundane things
Mundane things.
that are very difficult to obtain.
Very difficult to obtain.
3. Talking unnecessarily
Unnecessarily.
about mundane subject matters.
Mundane subject matter.
4. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5. Associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6. Being greedy for mundane achievements. Okay, so this is how we ruin our lives. This last time we talked about this, Prabhupada was talking about. Actually, I remember now. Remember when we had the Ayurvedic doctors come? Yes, yes. This was the last time, and I remember because we were reading this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And so basically this first paragraph is talking about the different energies of the Lord. You have the Maya Shakti, which is the external, you could say the Antiranga, or the Bahiranga Shakti. Then you have Tatastha Shakti, which is us. We will go, whatever energy we associate with, that's what we're going to be around. That's what we're going to be. And then there's the Antaranga Shakti, the internal potency.
Black and white. Try that.
Yes. This is very nice. Is this Tanmai's background?
I actually just put this background the other day.
Oh, for Tanmai.
Gaudiya mentions Puri Maharaj, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Anyhow, so basically there's the spiritual energy, there's the material energy, and then there's us. Whatever we associate with, we go to that thing. If we associate with the material energy, guess what we become? Materialistic. Yes. And if we associate with the spiritual energy, what do we become? We become spiritual. So naturally, what do? Yeah, it's simple, right? Except we don't do that. Except we are, yeah, we get lost in our duties. We get lost in the artificial needs of society, the needs of our own desires. Our own desires oftentimes pull us to prioritize things that should not be prioritized. And ultimately, we neglect things that shouldn't be neglected. So this is how we actually ruin our lives. And we're not interested in ruining our lives. But because we're not so refined in understanding. Is this better? It looks black and white now. Okay.
Yeah, that one, yeah.
Wow, you guys, we got the IT team here. So, Frida booked again. That's very nice. Okay, so Prabhupada is quoting here the verse from 9:13 of Bhagavad Gita, what Mahatmas or great souls do, and that's they associate with the spiritual energy. So it goes, Mahatmanas tu mam partha, daivim prakritim ashrita, bhajantyananya manaso gyatva bhutari mavyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service, because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. If you actually know that if we get too lost in the technicalities of this, then we actually miss the whole point, and then it won't even be worth it. So, so at some point, let's just leave it as it is, and then it should be good from there. All right, but maybe let's have someone scroll so you guys can.
I had it, so it showed all of the purport. But
How would it do that?
like this is the whole purport.
No, it's not. There's a lot of purport.
Oh,
Yes, plenty more. All right. So the word Mahatma refers to those who are broad-minded, not cripple-minded. Cripple-minded persons always engage in satisfying their senses, sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others through some ism, nationalism, humanitarianism, altruism. And they even may reject personal sense gratification for the sense gratification of others, like the family, their community, society. But actually all of this is extended sense gratification. So Prabhupada's going into how even when people seemingly do good, maybe they give charity, maybe they're interested in building hospitals, maybe they're doing this, that, and the other thing. Actually, because it's just a form of extending their sense gratification, it's not really, it's still materialistic. So ultimately, this may all be very good from the material point of view, Prabhupada's saying, but such activities have no spiritual value. The basis of such activity is sense gratification, either personal or extended. Either my sense gratification or here's your sense gratification. But that's not really helping someone out. You know, like even if we're on the street and we see a homeless person and we give him a bagel or we give him some food, yeah, it seems like it's a nice thing, but it's really not that amazing. You know, we just kind of gave him some sense gratification. But if we gave him prasadam, it's a different story, actually. Because in that food there was prayer, there was intention, and actually I was listening this morning how just like if you have like a really bad disease like smallpox or measles, if you eat someone's food that they make the disease, they have a disease, you get the disease. What?
Were you listening to my lecture or you were also listening to that lecture?
I was listening to it's just the Acharya channel. So I just put on whatever today's lecture is, so we probably are doing the same exact thing. So, but actually what's nice is the Vaishnavas, it works the same way. If you eat the Vaishnavas' foods, you become a Vaishnava. So that's why we're always like, eat, whoever who you are. Why? Because we're trying to make you spiritual. So actually if you give a homeless person prasadam, actually you're doing a great favor, and actually you're doing, it's a different thing. Instead of gratifying his senses, he might have his senses enjoyed, but there's a spiritual potency to it. So it's a different experience. So only when a person gratifies the senses of the Supreme Lord can he be called a Mahatma or broad-minded person. Like if you give someone prasadam, you know I pleased the Lord by sharing the Lord's mercy with that person. I'm giving that person the Lord. Actually, prasadam is non-different than the Lord. You actually have the Lord. We're going to go all indulge in the Lord later. When we honor prasadam, you're actually taking in the Lord. It depends on the level of faith you have. If you don't have a deep faith, you don't see it like that. You say, oh, it's just food. But actually, when you do an offering, that's what you're doing. You're asking the Lord to consume it, and just by His touch, it becomes the Lord. It becomes fully spiritualized by the Lord. And anyone who touches that also becomes spiritualized. That's why we are always interested in eating only the remnants of the Lord, because then we become spiritualized. So, right, you can associate with two energies. What are they? The material and the spiritual. So which one sounds good? Spiritual. And which one ruins your life? Yes, is that easy, right? Material ruins your life. The spiritual gives you life. Material What's it do?
Ruins your life.
Yes, and what's the spiritual do?
It gives you life.
Yeah, it gives you a real life. So anyhow, this is what we're trying to do. So this verse is all about the things that ruin your life. So the Mahatmas, they have real life. They're great souls. They know exactly what to do. But the Duratma, which might be us, or the cripple-minded persons, they're put under the control of the Lord's external impotency, or Mahamaya, meaning they're always chasing illusions, phantasmagoria happiness. And we learned what was on Sunday, right? What was the happiness formula? So yes, looking within. Remember, the Lord's spiritual potency is called the Antaranga Shakti, means the inward, the internal Shakti. The internal is where, even of yourself, is where the spiritual lies. So we're trying to tap into that. And looking within, but also refraining from what? In order to look within, you can't be busy doing what else? Yes, trying to engage the senses outward. So this is actually the happiness formula, but we've been trained since the very moment we touched this world to only do that, to try and engage our senses outward. You know, we make our whole life's purposes about external arrangements. But like really, what's all we have to do is the internal arrangement. But it's easier said than done. So all living entities in this material world are under the control of Mahamaya. I'm reading down, if you go down more, Tanmay. Whose business is to subject them to the influence of threefold miseries. Adidaivik klesha, or sufferings caused by the demigods, such as droughts, earthquakes, and storms, or tornadoes, or blizzards, or whatever it is. Adibhauta klesha, sufferings caused by other living entities, like insects or our enemies. And adhyatmik klesha, sufferings caused by one's own body and mind, such as mental and physical infirmities. Daiva bhutatma hetava, the conditioned souls subjected to these three miseries by the control of the external energy, suffer various difficulties. This is what's ruining our life. We're under the control of illusion, and under the control of illusion, we suffer. The kleshas impact us. So the main problem confronting the conditioned souls is the repetition of birth, old age, disease, and death. In the material world, Richa, Hare Krishna. In the material world, one has to work for the maintenance of the body and soul. But how can one perform such work in a way that is favorable for the execution of Krishna consciousness? Everyone requires possessions such as food grains, clothing, money, and other things necessary for the maintenance of the body. But, this is the first one, Atyahara, one should not collect more than necessary for his actual basic needs. If this natural principle is followed, there will be no difficulty in maintaining the body. So this is actually what we should do. We don't need to go crazy. You don't need to, become very ambitious and very like, I gotta hustle, I gotta be a millionaire, I gotta be this, whatever, that, and the other. Actually, it says in the Bhagavatam, enough to keep body and soul together, that's good enough. Body and souls together, that's good enough. Now, like for instance here, we do have to do some maintaining. We have to, and actually many of you contributed to helping us maintain this. And we still have to continue. One of the reasons we went out on book distribution today, and it's fun. It's a very fun. Book distribution is what?
It's fun.
It's fun and it's easy. This is a mantra Vaisheshika Prabhu gives. Book distribution is fun and easy. So we went out on book distribution. It's very nice. But one of the reasons we're going to emphasize this, one, it's just the best way to meet people. We have Shiva Das. We met, actually, Peter, we met you a bunch of times when we were out on book distribution. Yeah. In the beginning, Krishna kept sending you to us just to remind you to, hey, come to the temple. Hey, come to the temple. Hey, come to the temple. It wasn't even so important that you got a lot of books. But we didn't even need to get Peter a lot of books because he would come here and distribute the books to himself. Because he would come, hey, can I get this book? Hey, can I get that book? Can I get this book? And so he would do his own book distribution, which was very nice. But we would go out on book distribution, and One of the reasons is partial, just to collect some donation is necessary. Especially now we've got a bunch of boys here. We're filling rooms and so many things are happening. We have to use facilities and Wi-Fi and electricity and all these things. So it is necessary that we do collect some donation somewhere. If we don't, we'll be in trouble. But at the same time, it's not about that. We just need enough to get by. We don't need to become super ambitious and now we need this grand new temple. It needs to look like this. We need marble. We need all these things. No, that's crazy. If we just have like a house, it's good enough. If the house is too full and we can't fit any more people in the house anymore, like on Janmashtami, we can't fit any more people in the house, then it's okay. Maybe we get a little bigger facility. Maybe a bigger house. Maybe a community center. But we don't need to go crazy. So anyway, this overconsumption, eating as well, this, did you ever fast before?
I was going to ask you about that later.
Yeah. So if you fast, you realize one of the most depressing things about fasting is you realize how little food you actually need to survive. You need like so little to survive. But just like we are accustomed to eating and eating and eating, and trust me, I have the deepest samskaras in that realm. I can eat more than any person I know, I think. Like, I don't know one person who can actually like eat more than me. That's not true. Maybe there's some people. But I can eat so much, but I have to like cut myself off or I will, even just this week, I just decided to eat 2 meals a day for like the first time in a while. And I must have put on 10 pounds this week or something like that. But anyhow, it'll ruin our lives, actually. It'll ruin your life. And naturally you feel this. Nobody likes to feel larger than they, at least in the body sense, than they need to be. It's usually a huge insecurity for many people. I suffered from it a lot when I was younger. But it's just all due to uncontrolled senses, because we want to enjoy the senses, but we don't have the thought. I mean, I used to be like a bodybuilder, dietitian, and nutrition guy, and one of the slogans in the gym world was like, how did it go? That nothing tastes better than skinny feels. That's what they would say. Nothing tastes better than skinny feels. Why? Because they actually knew a secret to happiness to some degree. That if they're disciplined in their eating, that actually they will look and feel better in their discipline than the pleasure that they'll get from tasting and tasting and tasting. So like this, actually. Now it's not just about eating, and it's not about trying to look vain and like, ooh, I look good, my body looks good. This is not what Krishna consciousness is about. Kaushik, where are you? Where? I'm missing you. So,
Come join us.
Ben is missing you, Kaushik. Just like you were missing Ben for all that time, now he's missing you. So anyhow, no more than is necessary, and ideally only prasadam. Only eat prasadam. If you don't need anything else, actually you don't want anything else. Whatever energy we associate with, that's just the nature of a jiva. We're so small and we're so influenced by the peer pressure of energy that no matter what energy we associate with, we take that energy. Where'd Piyush go?
Upstairs, or downstairs.
Tell Piyush he has to associate with the spiritual energy.
I have a headache.
He has a headache? That's okay. That's material thing. Tell him, bring him into the spiritual thing. So anyhow, we have to do this thing. So no more than is required, and in not just food, money too. We don't need that much. We just need enough. And then maybe some of us are extending ourselves more and we're supporting a certain thing. Okay, but still, what's that? Oh, okay, I see. No more then what is necessary? So yeah, that's we all have to find what is the balance. What is actually necessary for my well-being in this life? For many of you, some of you are single people. For single people, there isn't actually that much that you have to have. That's you just need to be good. When you have a little bit more, when you have like a wife or a partner to look after, and then family and all these things, then the responsibility increases. But even still, you only need so much. So, and by taking in more than you need, you're wasting a bunch of time, and two, you're especially as far as eating is concerned, it doesn't do anything good for you. Almost all diseases, 95% of diseases are caused by unregulated eating habits. Even look at the number one death in America. What is it? Anyone know? It's heart disease. Heart disease is exclusively from eating, actually, animals. That's what heart disease comes from. Vegetarians, vegans, they don't suffer from heart disease at all because they don't eat anything that could give heart disease. Whereas, but the number one cause of death is a food-related issue from over-consuming, especially the fatty animal things, especially meat. But also it can happen with anything cholesterol-based, milk and dairy, anything, cheese, all these things. So anyhow, this is the first thing that ruins your life. Eating more than necessary or collecting more than required. Trying to gather more than you need. One, you'll waste your time, you'll waste your life. That's the worst thing. And then two, what you take in only becomes a burden. My wife is pregnant, and she's carrying about I don't know, is it appropriate to tell that you're carrying extra weight? Anyway, she's carrying about 25 extra pounds than she normally would carry. And she's feeling it's a burden. It's a burden. Just like if I say, Peter, can you hold these rocks for me? And after a while, Peter would be like, oh my God, can I put the rocks down? So like that, when we eat too much, we're taking in more and more and more. We're literally carrying the burden of what we eat. When we gain the weight and things like that, we take the burden on. Same thing. I'm even seeing it now. We have the properties and this, that, and the other thing, and this bill has to get paid on this time, this bill has to get paid on this time, you have to do this, that, and the other, and I'm like, oh my God, what a burden. And I'm wondering, do I really need this thing? I'm realizing I do, because this is how we do this. But otherwise, if we weren't doing this, I'd be like, get all of this out. I don't want any of this in my life. It is such a burden. But it's good to take burdens for Krishna. But unnecessarily, no way. Get rid of these things. So simplify. That's how you'll save your life and not ruin it. And these things, they ruin your life. Having more stuff than necessary, eating more than necessary, collecting more than necessary. Just get what you need. That's it. 2, over-endeavoring for mundane things. Let's see what Prabhupada's talking is much better than mine. He said if this principle is followed, he says, everyone requires possessions such as food, grains, clothing, money, and other things for the maintenance of the body, but one should not collect more than necessary for his actual basic needs. If this natural principle is followed, there will be no difficulty in maintaining the body. According to nature's arrangement, living entities lower on the evolutionary scale do not eat or collect more than necessary. Consequently, in the animal kingdom, there is generally no economic problem or scarcity of necessities. If a bag of rice is placed in a public place, birds will come eat a few grains and go away. A human being, however, will take the whole bag. He will eat all his stomach can hold and then try to keep the rest in storage. According to scriptures, this collecting of more than necessary atyahara is prohibited. Now the entire world is suffering because of it. So you see this. This is why people are fighting, this, that, and the other. is that, and just like the billionaire, just to be a billionaire, you can't even imagine how much money $1 billion is. Like take $1 million, but you can't even imagine how much $1 million is. And then multiply that by 1,000. It's just so much. It's like so much unnecessary thing. But like there's so many of them rising up and they're glorified and they're ruling society and they're just, these are the people. But actually they're suffering the most. I saw something the other day. It was like a photo of, because now Elon Musk is always on blast because he's a political figure now. But it was a photo of Elon Musk losing $29 billion from something dropped in the market. And his face was just like, he was so upset. He was so angry. But just see, like, he's so rich. He's so rich. We would be jumping for joy if we had like one thousandth of what he had. We would be jumping for joy. Many people. But he's so upset. He's so upset. Why? Because he's burdened by all these things. He's attached to all these things. And now a dip in the market, he loses I don't even know how you lose $29 billion in one day, and still be like still be the richest guy in the world. But it doesn't matter, It's like, it's crazy actually, and the whole world is suffering because of it. Because if you're not Elon Musk, and most people are not, these are the idols of society. This is what everyone's trying to be. They're all trying to be billionaires. I don't want to put Meghna's brother on blast, but I met Meghna's brother, and he told me, I want to be the richest person in the world. I was like, oh my gosh, what an endeavor, And he has such a cute voice, too, and he was telling me like this, and I was like, well, hopefully we get to hang out more, and I can convince you that that's not a great endeavor.
He had nice.
Yeah, he had good intentions. He wanted to help people, but actually he'll help more people if he can fully embody all these principles that will save his life, all of our lives, and we can help save other people's lives. Anyhow, collecting and eating more than necessary also causes prayas, or unnecessary endeavor, which is the next thing. By God's arrangement, anyone in any part of the world can live very peacefully if he has some land and a milk cow. Yes. There.
I'm okay.
He's okay. Cows say moo, Kaushik. Give it a try.
Moo.
Moo. Very good. So anyway, everyone in the world can live very peacefully if he has some land and a milk cow. There is no need for a man to move from one place to another to earn a livelihood, for one can produce food grains locally and get milk from cows. That can solve all economic problems. Fortunately, man has been given higher intelligence for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness, or the understanding of God, one's relationship with Him, and the ultimate goal of life, love of God. Unfortunately, so-called civilized man, not caring for God realization, utilizes his intelligence to get more than necessary and simply eats to satisfy the tongue. By God's arrangement, there is sufficient scope for the production of milk and grains for human beings all over the world, but instead of using their higher intelligence to cultivate God consciousness, so-called intelligent men misuse their intelligence to produce many unnecessary and unwanted things. Thus factories, slaughterhouses, brothels, and liquor shops are opened. If people are advised not to collect too many goods, eat too much, or work unnecessarily to possess artificial amenities, they think they are being advised to return to a primitive way of life. So most people, they're looking for the luxuries of life. They're looking for the movies. They're looking for, I don't know, there's all kinds of events. I don't know, I saw Peter, I don't know why I thought of salsa, just sorry. But yeah, just like looking to try and enjoy in so many elaborate ways, so many different things. The worst of them are, factories, have you ever worked in a factory? I worked in a devotee factory. And do you know what Prabhupada said factories are? Hell. Like actual hell.
I worked there too.
Yes. We were just talking to Rishi, and Rishi was talking, he's working in Elon Musk's factory in Buffalo, actually. But he was, he was telling how much he was struggling, and he said, one of the hardest things is I go in when it's dark, and there's no windows in there all day, and then I come outside and it's dark again. And that's just
Depressing.
yeah, very depressing. It's unnatural. But this is the industrial revolution. Everything, industries are running everything. And we support industries, you know, and every step of the way, they can do it cheaper. And that's why they do all these factories and things like this. And there's so over endeavor. You see this, because people have not simplified their lives fully, and they have so many extra necessities, and this subscription, and that subscription, and this subscription, and this thing, and that thing, and the other thing. Then they got to work like, crazy to maintain it. But interestingly enough, I'm seeing it, and I hope my parents aren't listening, but they're an example in my life where they're not don't have crazy, they're fairly simple as far as American people go, but they have a bunch of unnecessary things they consider necessities, and they work so hard to maintain it all, and at the end of the day, they're like scraping by. And I'm like, how could you have, and they make a good amount of salary between the two of them, I don't need to discuss all these things, but for me, if that amount of money was coming in, that would be like, wow, I would be, I would be fine. I wouldn't have to do anything. But because there's a lot of unnecessary so-called necessities, they're not okay. And we're seeing and it wastes their time. They have to spend so much time just to float by. But if you simplify your life, if you become able to be satisfied with less, then you don't have to work so hard to maintain it. You can simplify. So, and guess what? You'll have time to do bhakti. Yes, the very thing, the point of life, love of God, to understand God. This is understand God, the relationship with God, and then the ultimate goal of life, exchange of love with God. But unfortunately, because people are attached, they have so much this over-consuming, this consumerism mentality, then they have to over-endeavor, and starting 40 hours, 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week. You see some people, oh my gosh. So, but ultimately, what do we really need? Body and soul just has to be together, as Shukadev Goswami says in the beginning of Bhagavatam. As long as body and soul is together, then you could practice bhakti. Now, you might have some dependence. It's not good taste if I say, all right, well, I have a child. So let's just keep his body and soul together. There should be some facility. Give some type of facility, but not more than necessary. And actually, then we won't spoil. You see this, You ever meet some of the spoiled kids? You're growing up, maybe they're really rich or something like this or something. But you see, they become very spoiled. They become very entitled. That's what spoiled means. They're ruined. Because they become very ungrateful and mean-spirited and all these things. And actually, this is just from overconsumption, and they're being taught all these things. So teach them right. Give them just the necessities. Wife too. All these things. Man, I got lucky with my wife because she's fairly simple. But, I know a ton of people, I keep thinking of my family, but, for instance, my brother and his girlfriend, he's doing so much, to maintain, but that's because that's what she wants, and he's somehow made his role in life to anything she wants, getting it, and, for me, I can't handle that. I'm a limited person. I can only do so much. And if you're not okay with that, then we're not going to be okay. But, people, who knows why they get implicated in all these things. Anyhow, human life is meant for God realization, and the human being is given higher intelligence for this purpose. Those who believe that this higher intelligence is meant to attain a higher state should follow the instructions of the Vedic literatures. By taking such instructions from higher authorities, one can actually become situated in perfect knowledge and give real meaning to life. Sutta Goswami describes the proper human dharma in this way: Dharmasya hyapavargyasya nartho arthayo pakalpate narthasya dharmaikantasya kamola bhayahi smritaha. All occupational engagements, dharma, are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service, dharma, should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. So, all of your duties shouldn't ultimately be so that, okay, at the end of the day, we need material gain. And then on top of that, if you do somehow come across material gain, because by karma it will come, you will have some facility in your life where material opulence will be present, then if you use it for sense gratification, if you use it just for your own personal bodily enjoyment, this is forbidden. This is forbidden in the scriptures. So it's very important we give that which is attained to who? To Krishna. If we give it to Krishna, but there's a way to give it to Krishna. How does Vishnu eat? Yes, actually through the Brahmins and the devotees. We should give to serving the devotees. Actually, like right now, we actually have a bunch of devotees over the next month. We have swamis and gurus and maybe like 4 over the next month and a half coming, which is very nice. But my biggest anxiety, at least for money, is like, how are we going to have enough to make sure that we can give them, But that's a good anxiety, actually, because we want to give to the devotees so they can travel, they can move, they can do what they need to do. And I'm sure it will happen perfectly. They come, and people are often very generous, especially when devotees are very inspiring and sincere, and they give something so sweet to the population. But this is ultimately how material wealth, this is what should be used for caring for the Lord's people. Anything else, we get so we get so wrapped up on how all of our elaborate plans for wealth. I know, trust me, I know very much so in my life. But ultimately, what should anything be used for? Serving the devotees. And that's kind of was the inspiration for this house. I never wanted a mortgage in my whole life. I told my mom, I'm not getting a mortgage. Mortgage in Latin means death contract. I'm not getting a death contract. I'm not doing all these things. And then when my mom heard that we were buying this house, she was making fun of me. You said you would never do this and all these things like that. And I was like trying to explain to her, well, now we're trying to do it for Krishna. She's like, well, you hypocrite, all these things. And they don't want to hear that. But no, I swear, you should use everything for Krishna. Actually, my wife's mother had a similar conversation, I think, with Michael yesterday. She was trying to have it with me, but I had to run out of the house. But
he fed Michael to the.
Yeah, and so I
ask Michael about Yukta Vairagya.
yeah, I was like, talk to Michael about Yukta Vairagya, and I got.
Michael's like, Yukta Vairagya.
But Michael was eager to tell her about Yukta Vairagya. So anyway, when I got back, I heard that she had kind of exploded on him a little bit. But no problem. It was, it's the same thing. She was just saying.
I know. She kept saying sorry.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm sorry Ram left you in this.
So, but yeah, people think that, all right, if you want to be a devotee, you want to be spiritual, you don't deal with money at all. You don't deal with any of these things. No, we do deal with these things, but it's for a different purpose. We try and offer these things to Krishna. Yes, and guess what? If you water the root of a plant and you're a little leaf on the plant, you're still going to get watered. And guess what? So are all your friends, and so is everyone around you. Every other facet of life will get watered. You'll get cared for, no problem. And I've seen this in my life over and over time. When I have ambitions for my own personal, there was a phase of life that I was in, astrologically called my Rahu phase. And I just got out of it maybe, March of last year. And it was a really brutal phase, because what's reflected in that phase is you have a really strong sense of personal ambition and motives and things like this. And it clouds your good judgment. And so I did many, many things, even in the name of devotion, that ultimately weren't for my best interest and weren't for the best interest of others. And ultimately, it backfired on me every single time. Every single time I let my own personal motivations get in the way, it backfired on me, and it was a retribution came where I had to deal with unforeseen circumstances that I couldn't have imagined would arise. But that's how it works. But every time oftentimes Krishna forces me, because I think he has some affection for me. He forced me to make the right decision. It always came back perfect. Better than I could have ever imagined. So this is life, actually. But it's hard because we make the calculations. Well, if I acquire, I hoard this much, and then I can do this, and I want to do this. But it very rarely goes according to your plan. It almost never goes according to your plan. Is it not? How often is it, yes, it went exactly as I planned? No. Oftentimes your desires get fulfilled. I mean, Krishna fulfills all desires. It's amazing. Ever since I started this process, this desire, that desire, this desire, I didn't know he was going to fulfill this one, but he does. He'll fulfill every single one of your desires. But it's never how you think. It was never according to your plan how the desire came to be. But by practicing devotion, and especially not caring about the result and trying to give the result to Krishna, Krishna will see that and he's like, all right, here, through the back door, you're not going to see it coming, but boom, here's the thing you were looking for. You're like, oh my God, how'd that get there? But that's how it works. So anyway, you can save your life this way. Don't over endeavor. Don't try and collect too much. We have to end soon. The first step in human civilization consists of, and don't do things for material gain. And then if you do get material gain, don't use it on sense gratification. It's not for your enjoyment. It's not so. If you use it in this way, you'll become miserable actually in this world. And people think this is what happy people do. They have a lot of material gain that they get to enjoy in this way, that way, and the other way. But everything has, it's like, for instance, if you enjoy too much eating, then you're carrying the extra burden of being, if you're enjoying too much sex life, you think you're enjoying, your brain will be duller than just about anybody's brain, because you're losing all the vital nutrients to actually feed a really high-class brain. The body works so hard to produce these fluids, and people are so interested in expelling these things and constantly. But actually, this is like the worst thing they can do for actually their refinement. The yogis, they will abstain for like 12 years or more. Why? Because the body, on taking so long away from getting rid of these things, the body does amazing things and is able to nourish the brain and tap into psychic abilities that we couldn't even imagine were possible. Right, Kashik? Kashik is a lifelong yogi, hopefully. But this is ultimately what we should do, and we can be happier in this way. But it takes discipline. In human society, the higher intelligence of a human being should be trained to understand basic dharma, according to the scriptural injunctions. In human society, there are various religious conceptions characterized as Hindu, Christian, Hebrew, Mohammedan, Buddhist, and so on. For without religion, human society is no better than animal society. As stated above, dharmasya hyapavargyasya nartho thayo pakalpate. Religion is meant for attaining emancipation or freedom, not for getting bread. This is kind of like a shot at the give me my daily bread type of mood. That people are praying to the Lord so that they get their daily bread. Please, Lord, I need my bread today. And that bread is different for every person. Are you still somehow controlling this?
No, it's moving on.
Oh, Meghna's got the mouse.
I know.
I was like, how is it happening? I was so confused, actually.
Words are manifesting.
Yeah, I was like pretty tripped out. I'm like, what did you guys do? Yes.
Couldn't we say though, at the root of the give us our daily bread is it would be the same example as relying on Krishna for everything. It's not necessarily the bread in and of itself. It's asking the Lord to provide that for you.
Yeah, or just trusting that he'll provide that. And yes, but the problem is, and I was raised this way, and it's not necessarily, I'm not going to blame all my dad like he was the only one, but the kind of, somehow the religion turned to, God's your genie. And you can pray to him and he can give you anything that you want. But this is a misconception. This is actually a really, it's not a great relationship. You're like the spoiled child. I want this and I want that and I want this and Sky Daddy, give me this and Sky, like that, like that. But that's, that shouldn't be. But at the same time, your daily bread will be provided. But if it's about your daily bread, then there's something wrong. Yes.
Also, I think in Nectar of Devotion it does say that you should like tell the Lord like actually like what you need. Like you shouldn't. You were telling me this recently.
Yeah, before the deities, you should reveal your heart and what you need. The Lord will fulfill what you need, but you have to actually evaluate, do I really need this? Do I really need to be the richest person in the world? Like something like that. No, you might not need to be the richest person, but you have a certain set of needs, and you have to fulfill a certain set of needs. But at the same time, there's difference between needs and greeds, right? Mahatma Gandhi was famous for saying there's enough in the world to fulfill everybody's needs. But there is not enough in the world to fulfill one person's greed. Not enough for one person's greed in the whole world. So, I'm not going to say, well, this is literal true, this is Shastra, what Gandhi said. But the point is taken, People have almost an unlimited appetite for greed. But actually, what does one need? Not very much. Just practice fasting and see. It's depressing how little food you need. It's so depressing. You need so little. And it's just like, oh my God, what do I do with my life? Yes.
Well, even like besides just food, like Devaki Devi Dasi, who's coming here, she was telling us she just lives out of a small suitcase. She said when she doesn't have a home, she travels. She said sometimes I have to look at my socks, and sometimes I have 2 or 3 pairs of socks, and I have to think, do I really need this pair of socks? And like that's like how she's been living. She's a renunciate.
Yeah, she's coming here. She's wonderful. You should hear from her. Yeah, she's in a different stage of life than most of us are here. But actually, she's exemplary. Yeah, she's been living like this for many years, but she's exemplary of what, the phase of life, you might have heard of Vanaprastha, of what Vanaprastha is all about. And it's...
Detachment from social duties.
What's that?
Detachment from social duties.
Yes, a detachment from so many social duties and really living on the bare necessities of life. And where even you're like, 3 pairs of socks seems like I have a lot. And when you're living out of one suitcase, it's like, well, that'll take up room. I only need so much like this. Actually, when we were staying in India, you kind of develop a certain level of renunciation. Especially Krishna forced us with these really bad ticket that we got, that we couldn't take anything back. So we're having to sit here, well, all right, I only have this much thing that I can bring back. So you have to really decide what is of the utmost importance. And you find your basic necessities are of the utmost importance and anything else is excessive. And so, like this.
It was nice.
It was nice. Actually, it was especially nice because I'm used to having to do so much shopping for my wife in India. And so, Krishna took away that facility. I kind of wish I gave the money in shopping rather than to the airline, but what could have been done? So I've been much happier to spend $680 that way than on one bag, but what could be done? Anyhow, this is how you ruin your life. This is only the beginning. Actually, there's a lot more. It's going to talk about prajalpa soon, unnecessary talking. This is something I need to work on. You know, what we talk about should be about the absolute truth, should be about the Lord, it should be about eternal things. Even sometimes we get in the mode of goodness and we want to talk about you know, kind of material systems, like for us it might be like Ayurveda or healthy eating or things like that. But that won't actually solve anybody's spiritual issues, you know. And ultimately, if we don't bring it to the higher platform, even yoga and all these things, if we don't bring it to the higher platform, what ends up happening instead is that we get kind of trapped on the material platform, and there's no real solution, you know. A lot of times we get in conversations with family members and things like that, and we're like, crap, I only talked about material things with them. I didn't help them, actually. I kind of just sent them on a different material path. Maybe a little better material path, but yes, Tanmay.
But Prabhu, like, are those like things also not needed for your maintenance and like because we are currently in the material world, right? So like just to kind of move through the world, like few things might be needed. Like that day you guys were talking about that doctor giving you some Ayurvedic like some I don't know exactly what, but like advice or stuff like that.
Oh, that came with
Yeah.
Stephen that
Yeah.
gave us
Something
the
with-
Ayurvedic cleanse.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
like that. So like even though if it's not like exactly like spiritual, but like that is still something that was of help for you guys, right? So like
Yeah.
is like how is that unnecessary? Like,
I mean, it depends. You know, you have your human needs. So if it, you know, like for instance, yeah, we use Ayurveda all the time. We do yoga even all the time. We utilize these sattvic or good practices, you know, all the time. But ultimately, it should be connected so that it enhances your spiritual life. You know, like keeping a healthy body is important so that you can, you know, have a good spiritual life. You know, not needing to sleep, you know, 10, 12 hours a day because you keep certain good practices. You know, it's helpful. But at the same time, if you make it just all about those practices and never take it to the main point, and if the main thing isn't the main thing, as Vaisheshika Prabhu would say, then it's actually useless at the end of the day.
so we can't be like it's so we cannot say like it's like bad or it's like ruining because it is like if the purpose is it's serving the main thing, then it is important as well, right? Like that I'm thinking, like I don't know.
Yes. It can, like for instance, if you're very sick
Yeah.
and you need to get medical advice
Right.
so that you can better heal and then actually do your spiritual life. You can't read, you can't do your worship, you can't do anything. You know, this happens to us previously in India all the time. We would get very sick and then we would need serious medical care to get better so that we can do anything spiritual again, because now we can barely move, you know. So yes, it's very helpful. But at the same time, once you're healed, then it's like, okay, now let me focus on the spiritual thing. So yeah, it's mainly about it's always about the spiritual thing, but sometimes you have needs. And if you're like, for instance, everyone needs clean food, clean water, and clean air. If you don't have access to these things, you will get sick. This is why most people get sick. There's an imbalance in something. You know, getting sick isn't just random, like, oh man, that crazy seasonal thing just flew through the air and attacked me. And no, there's an immune system, there's a science on how to build the immune system, there's a science on what type of food, what type of water, what type of everything that you need. It's all scientific, actually. But at the same time, you know, if you just make your whole life about being a nutritionist and you're like, I lived to 130 years old because I was able to fight every sickness that was out there. Well, what's the point? It's eventually going to get you anyway. You can't do it forever. At 130, you're done, or whatever. 110, whatever. I've seen some people at 110 they go, or something like that. But like, what's the use? You know, the use if you stay healthy, so you can do the point of life. Like for instance, Bhaktisiddhanta, he lived only until his 50s before he got disgusted with the material world, and he wanted to leave. He could have lived longer even. He just decided to kind of, no, I'm going to leave the body. Srila Prabhupada, when he left, he was old, but he wasn't like crazy old. He wasn't in his 90s. He wasn't coming into his hundreds, but he served his purpose. I think he was just over 80.
No, early 80s.
Yeah, early 80s.
Govinda Swami too.
Gorgo.
He probably was only in his
No, he was younger.
60s.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of great spiritual personalities. They're not interested in all these preserving the material things. Once the spiritual purpose is fulfilled, then they can check out. So, not to say that we should, try to check out earlier than necessary. We have many things to learn here. But we should learn these. We should learn all of these things. This is the main point of life, actually. Prabhupada gave. It was understand God, understand the relationship, and then cultivate love of God. This is the point. This is the whole point of life. Understand. Also in that, what's the relationship? And then how can I exchange love? Anything else is a material thing. Anything else is a material thing. And maybe it can help you do those three things, but if those three things aren't the main point, they're useless, actually. And they're over endeavors. They're wastes of your life. My wife is saying it's time. Okay. It's past the time. Who?
Josh,
Yeah, he was out, huh?
yeah. I was like, they don't like your done. Okay, bye. He said he would ask his dad, but I was like,
No
okay,
problem.
Your dad already came.
No problem. So anyhow, does that make sense? Okay. Well, that's good. Any questions or anything like that? Is the food ready in there? Just about. What do you think? A small kirtan and it'll be ready? Yes. Okay.
Prabhupada was glorifying Grangabalite Habe.
I was just thinking about Grangabalite Habe. Do you want to try it with the...
I
No.
think it'll be on the screen too. I think it's not so long.
Okay.
It's just the same script.
Okay. This is a nice bhajan. Alright. Meghna, you have the mouse? Can you zoom it as well? Okay. So what this means is, when will that opportune moment come to us when there will be shivering of the body as soon as we chant Lord Gauranga's name? While chanting Hare Krishna, when will there be tears in the eyes? When will there be so much ecstasy flowing through our body that we'll actually lose control of certain aspects of our body due to the ecstasy and calling out to God? That's actually experiencing that love of God is the main point of life. It makes anything else look useless. No matter how good the food tastes or the dreams of romance and this, that, and the other, nothing is in comparison. When will I obtain the mercy of Lord Nityananda Chandra? When by his mercy will the desire for material enjoyment become very insignificant? This is how you know you're making advancement. When your desire for material things become insignificant. That's the mercy of Nityananda. When will the mind is completely purified, being freed from material anxieties and desires, then I shall be able to understand Vrindavan and the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna. And then my spiritual life will be successful. So, when we're freed from material anxieties and desires, that's when we know the mind is completely purified. And then we can understand Vrindavan and Radha and Krishna and all these things, not just trying to jump right in. That's why the Bhagavatam has a full 9 cantos filled with philosophy and all these things. Why? To peel you away from all these material desires and anxieties that we're building an illusion. We just try to go right to Krishna, right to Vrindavan and all these things. We won't have set the proper foundation. And when shall I be very much eager to study the books left by the 6 Goswamis, headed by Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami? By their instruction I shall be able to properly understand the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. These are the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. They very confidentially knew all these things, how to purify the mind, how to do all of these processes. So that's why Srila Prabhupada, he came here and we just studied one of the Goswami's books, Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita, that Srila Prabhupada was so kind to translate into English for us. So this is one of the important things of why we're out there distributing books, is because actually people should read these books. These books will profoundly change your life. You should, please, I humbly request you, just take some time in the day to read these books. I can guarantee you, whatever other excuse you say is there for not reading these books, it's not as important. You should find at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. And you can make such profound advancement by reading these things. And last is my only aspiration is to attain the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis, headed by Rupa and Raghunath Das Goswami, and Narottam Das constantly prays to attain their lotus feet. So that's the meaning of this song. And ultimately, if we read these books, which are ultimately from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Goswamis, we can be free from all of these things and we can access love for